Hello everyone, welcome back to Asturis in City Skylines. Last time we did a huge change to the coastline. We carved a new bay into the city center area, started a tram bridge over it with a wooden pedestrian part, and also built a nice looking commercial center on the side of this new bay. Also did some natural detailing, trees, rocks, a sandy beach, and we changed the color of the sea bottom to make it look a bit more tropical maybe. Today we move back to the main transportation hub. We will expand it and almost complete it, so let's go. In that previous cinematic shot, you could have seen that we do have a huge gap between these two areas. So we have the hub area and the coastline or the waterfront places that we have been focusing on in the previous episodes. But I wanted to, for this project, for today, I wanted to do some kind of connector between them. And what better project to do that than the park? So that would be that park that I already advertised in many different episodes before, right here, right below this flying train path. You know, the one that's just going to allow you to just directly see through the entire center of the city to the space elevator from the area of the train station, if you are standing on the platforms, especially the high-speed elevated platforms. But when I was almost getting ready to build the park, I realized that we just need to complete something else before, and not just, for example, this flying train, second line of the flying train, but also some different areas around it. We kind of need to figure out how to do the second side of the bay and some different places around it as well. Lots of planning just needs to go into that park. So here we are in like a first preparation project for finally arriving into the park. So, like I said, we are going to finish that second station for that second line of the flying train. And I really wanted to do something special in here. So, on the live stream, I actually started with something completely different. And then I completely scrapped it. I completely demolished what I built there. So at first I started building like a tram station on like a corner of the hub, opposite of this corner. But I didn't really like it at all, and it also put this second flying train station in a completely different place, in like a backside of this curved station building, and it was kind of like tucked away on that on this hub, and I didn't really like it. So I wanted to pick a different, more like a more central position for this second station, and then I realized that we now have that ability with procedural objects to cut textures, to cut models. So it is possible to, for example, cut holes into these buildings and just make the train, the flying train, go inside them or through them, just like I did in here. So not only we are going to do that station inside of this building, but we are also going to make it visible from the top. So I am cutting also a hole in the roof, as you can see here, because this station building, I mean, it's not a station building, it's the roundabout buildings that I'm using as the station building, but it has those areas on the roof, right, that are just kind of screaming to just do something like this with them, either just cut them or put some kind of detailing inside of them, which we will do, by the way, later in today's episode. So we are obviously going to use heavily the color red in that station because it's the red line. The second line is obviously the first one that we built is blue line. This one is the red line. At first I was not sure if maybe I'm going to switch them, make this one blue and the other one red, but we have the stadium right next to here, so if the station was blue, then it would just kind of blend together and wouldn't look all that contrasty. So this is perfect, although that entrance, as you could have seen, I just like filled the hole left around the tunnel inside the building. I colored that blue, but it's the same blue as the facade of the building, so I'm kind of thinking that that's okay. It wasn't looking all that great when it was red, so red is only going to be the color of the trains themselves and the surface of that platform. Right now it's not done yet. I'm just going to, leave it like this for a while because I want to focus on something else. And that is basically this corner between the stadium and the hub. Underneath that high-speed portion and on the side of this like a junction, the train junction on the side. So I was thinking I'm just going to turn it into some kind of like a industrial area, light industry or something like that. Not exactly all that nice looking place because it's like the backside of the station or something like that. And then it occurred to me that we also have some terminus platforms on the opposite side of the hub. So why not make the same kind of style, same kind of project in here as well, so that we have just terminus platforms on both ends of the entire hub. It kind of makes sense, and it's just going to make the train portion of the entire hub bigger, which is, a good thing. Like, more trains the better, right? The more trains the better. So yeah, that's exactly the reasoning behind this decision, and that's what I went for. Although we had a huge issue here, because I already defined all these tracks leading into the hub from this direction, and they are not exactly all that suited for different junctions or some kind of just splits from them, right? They go into different heights. So we have, for example, that central part, which is also going to be for cargo. It needs to follow like a very restrictive grades in there. It cannot just go up and down as we want it. And then we also have this where the train is right now in that shot. That's the part that just goes very steeply down below all those tracks, and it's kind of just twisting all around. So it was not exactly all that simple to just create a couple of terminus platforms over here. They would have very sharp turns into them and so on. So I decided that we are actually going to make these platforms lower compared to the rest of the station. So right now these platforms are pretty much at the same height as, for example, the trams in that tram hub that we did in like episode 3 or 4 or something, right? So that's going to create like a different elevation in the area, which is just, opportunity to create more levels, more verticality. That's always welcome. And it's also going to allow me to more easily just connect it to the rest of the junction. So, well, it's actually not going to be connected to the junction in front of the station here, for example, but it's going to just create another parallel track that is going to eventually connect to the main line, like further down these tracks, right? So it's probably no secret anymore that there is going to be another like a train stop there, and it's probably going to have multiple tracks, and that's probably in front of that stop there's going to be some kind of a junction for entrance into this portion of the main hub. So from that direction, we are definitely going to put some kind of like outside connections as well, so that these terminus platforms are probably not going to be used in Asturis, like in the game actually. They are probably going to be mostly for decorations, and later if I'm going to figure out some kind of outside connections, that they are probably going to be running back and forth between the edge of the map and these platforms. I would really like to keep the actual urban connection, like, game-wise, to the central platforms of that entire hub, because it makes sense, because those lines are just going to be going all around the city. They are just not going to terminate here. But if I'm going to put lines on the edge of the map and here, then I might as well make them stop in between as well. That's not going to be that big of a deal, but we will see. City Skylines is not exactly that great with it would be nicer if you could create some kind of timetables, or make sure that the trains between different lines could also, for example, see each other and kind of unbunch or something, but that's not exactly the case. So we will see. But, we just have the platforms right now. The opportunities are here to create whatever we want in the future. So that's kind of the point of this entire hub, to just make it as big as we can. And because we can, definitely. And later we will just find some use for it. So, that's probably a much better approach compared to Aurelia. In Aurelia, I didn't do that many platforms, and later I was kind of running into issues because I had a bit too many lines for them. Now, anyway, the verticality in this area is actually going to be more interesting than this. So we are going to extend this green surface. This is exactly the same floor, the same level, and, well, actually the same place. That's continuation of this side of those central platforms, right, on the side. So this is actually the exact same surface that later goes around or through the station building to the stadium, all right? And it kind of felt, fitting to do it that way. I didn't really need to create some kind of like huge central stairs into the entire area, but I'm just going to create stairs and elevators, just these tiny elevators, the ones that I'm not really using that much, just as a decoration, just to go directly into the platforms. That's also partially influenced by the fact that these platform networks are slightly angled inside. so that combining them with some kind of surfaces like that is not exactly going to look that okay. All right, so doing the transition to the different level at the end of the platform is kind of a better decision, and it's just going to allow me to do like a very nice stairs there, and together with the elevators it's actually looking really good. Later I'm going to put some kind of timetables and like numbers for the platforms, and as you can see we also have this planter line going on there, which is not looking bad at all. The biggest issue in this place was of course to incorporate it with the stadium building, so that was the biggest challenge, and we really had to think about that. Now, the platforms in the area for passengers are going to be in the center of this entire like railway area, but on the sides I would really like to create some kind of dead-end tracks, just like sidings or just parkings for some kind of trains, because I really wanted to fill that space. I didn't want to really overdo it with the platforms too much. It's, I think, the same number of platforms as on the opposite end of the hub with the terminus platforms, so it kind of feels fitting to do that, and just putting some kind of buildings there or just detail it with something wouldn't exactly feel right. So these kinds of other tracks make sense, and it's like a weird enough area that I cannot do the tracks straight, like parallel. I have to have them like this. They're kind of fanning out into the area, which is creating something interesting. And we also have to put pillars for that high-speed elevated tracks above this place. And that's also a great opportunity to then fill the rest of the unused spaces with some kind of like industrial or technical looking detailing, right? So that's exactly what I did there. I was talking already about this style earlier, how I would really like to continue with this and place it here and there in the city. This like industrial looking or just technical looking floors, layers between or below the main layers of that area, right? So I did that, for example, with that custom tram bridge place that we did a couple of episodes earlier, and I just did it in here. We are later going to put some lights there, different lights, just like before, and I don't know, I think that it's kind of going to stand out and it's something interesting in the place, It's kind of going to make it more futuristic looking as well, maybe. Now, this is super important. So, this is what I was talking about. The biggest challenge in this area was to combine the stadium building and the station building. So what I'm doing in here is basically just taking that roundabout building and extracted one face of it, right? And then putting it in here. And since it's a roundabout building, it's curved, it has many vertices there, and I can just manipulate those vertices into whatever kind of shapes I want. So for example, I did that little, it's not even half circle, but just that curved area, which is, as you could have seen, I used the network walls there to mark exactly the shape that I want there, because it's following basically the layout, the geometry of the start of the passenger platforms there down below, and it's going to form some kind of just nice geometry there with the building, because on this side, on that stadium plaza, as you can see, we also have that kind of curve going on there, right? So this is kind of like a opposite curve to that place. It's not exactly symmetrical, which is, interesting, and it's just not straight, it's just creating something else, because that place definitely needed something non-standard. So, and also is the same building as the station building. It's exactly the same colors, textures, the window layouts are also the same, all the sizes. So it really looks like it's one huge block, fully customized to completely and precisely fit this entire area. What I also did there for the stadium building itself, because the stadium is procedural objects too, I cut away those like windows on that first floor, so it's going to make it look like that green surface, the green floor, is going inside of the station building, so that there is obviously going to be some kind of another entrance into the station building, so that if there is some kind of event at the stadium and you arrive at these platforms with the train, which is obviously the preferred way to get into the stadium with some kind of large events, then you are immediately going to just go inside the stadium. You don't need to go around the entire train station building, just immediately go into that stadium from that side. Now, as you can see, it's almost done. And I also did like a little green, like a stripe between those different levels of the railways. Later, I'm going to put lots of trees there and just decorate the areas to make it look like some kind of a jungle as well. It's going to really have that tropical feel at the end, I feel like. Now, anyway, now I wanted to move and do something to the big station building, because the roof of the station building was just kept standard as it was by default, and I heavily scaled up this structure, right? So it kind of stretched the texture, and it just created like huge surfaces on the roofs that were not really used in any way. And like I mentioned before, these are really interesting, right? So we have these kinds of areas inside the roof, which kind of screamed for putting grass inside of it. I didn't really want to clutter it with some kind of other details. I think that leaving it just with grass is going to be enough as some kind of a detail. I suppose that these areas would probably be accessible, maybe for some kind of like a restaurant, just like a grassy area to chill on, maybe while waiting on a train, for a train or something like that. And then I wanted to recolor the roofs themselves. Those buildings are procedural objects, so I could have easily just recolored the textures, but the buildings have some kind of reflectivity, and it didn't exactly look right, because if you were looking against the sun, or, against the reflection of the sun of the station roof, then it would just look completely white because of the reflection. So I had to just put the asphalt surfaces in there, and then I wanted to just recolor them into something. I was doing that on the live streams, and actually I was experimenting because someone recommended me that I should, because the station building is basically made of 3 different height levels, and we are next to an Olympic stadium, right? So you probably see where this is going. So I made it have 3 different colors: gold, bronze, and silver, or silver and bronze. But it was kind of looking a bit strange, and to be honest, I'm not really that much into sports, so I wasn't exactly feeling that. So I eventually just used the gold color, kind of quotation marks doing in here, because we don't really have that color around this area, and it's like a huge contrast to the stadium building as well. It's that, tried and true orange-blue combination, and I was really trying to make that orange very similar to the color of the sand that we have on the beach, right? So I positioned the camera so that I had that procedural objects color view right next to the beach that we did in the previous episode, and it's not the same color, but it's kind of close, and it's just orange. It just looks nice. It's kind of similar to that airport in Aurelia kind of orange. So maybe we can call this the Aurelia orange. I don't know. But anyway, it's just looking nice. It just, kind of spices up the entire station building. So that's great. And the grass, in between those orange places are also quite nice. Now, anyway, this is me going back into the railway area, the sunken railway area. And we are just going to do the second half of it. Now, in here, I was first thinking that I'm just going to fill it with some kind of buildings and whatever. But then I realized we don't, for example, have any kind of cargo station. And this entire hub doesn't have any kind of cargo, place where cargo trains can stop. We only did those central tracks through the entire hub where the cargo trains can pass through the station, but no place where they can stop. So that's going to be exactly this second side of this sunken terminus area. And what I'm also going to do later, I'm going to make it so that one of those tracks, or 2 tracks, I'm not sure, they are going to be able to go inside the stadium building. I don't exactly know if this is something that's ever done in real life, but, it kind of makes sense. Like, what if there's like a huge event in the stadium? So then you can just bring in materials by a train. Like, it makes sense. Why not do that, right? When we already have the train tracks right next to it, then might as well just extended all the way inside. Now, this is one of those logistics centers buildings that I had since forever. I remember placing it in Aurelia, or actually did I? I was definitely considering it there, but it's like a very specific looking building. It has those loading bays and everything, but it also has those very nice looking solar panels. And overall, this face, the blue dark face of that building, looks really nice. And it's angled or like, offset on one side. So that's also creating like a very good fit for this particular place. Now, this platform that I'm using in here, I kind of wanted to make it look different compared to the rest of the platforms, although I think this is the Japanese Shinkansen train, high-speed platforms or something like that. But, I'm just using it in here because it looks different compared to the rest of the platforms that I'm using. And I don't really have that many platform networks, right? And along these curved tracks, we definitely needed to use a network platform. So using also some kind of like filler office buildings in here, this particular building fits absolutely perfectly. And this in here is another good example of why using node controller for detailing, filling areas like that with networks is a really good idea. It's very efficient, and obviously it's going to allow me to just keep using that same texture of the platform. It's obviously going to stretch it a bit, but with this particular one, it doesn't really matter. It's no big deal. Now, this is what I was talking about. I'm going to just put lots of different trees, palm trees as well, and smaller bushes and things like that, lots of green around this area, and it's going to kind of make it look like a jungle. It's going to be enclosed into this like a jungly area. So if you are standing on the platforms down below, then you have the stadium, the station building on one side, but everywhere else you basically see all these palms and trees. So I don't know, that kind of feels like a nice thing to have. And by the way, I also replaced the trees from episode 2 or something when we were starting with the hub. There I did those like autumn trees, even though I didn't want to have them as autumn trees. I just wanted to have, different colors for the trees, but I just replaced them with all these green palms and just the usual trees that I'm using everywhere else, because I kind of wanted to unify that around the station since I'm using them in here, and it paid off. It's actually looking really, really good. It's kind of reinforcing that tropical feeling of the entire city, and I like that. I really want to continue with that. I really want to use as many palm trees as I can in the city because I just really like how they look. They are just adding so much more to the city. This is what I was talking about. I'm just cutting a hole in that bottom of the station building. By the way, I had to stretch the bottom of the building down below, obviously, because it's below the surface, below the level 0 of the stadium. And I just made those tracks go inside because they were already aiming there, so it kind of felt fitting to do that. This is what I was talking about in the previous episode, just me experimenting with these pergolas and adding some vegetation on top of them. So these are actual like tree objects, these like bushes or tall grass or something, because I needed obviously something that's flat, not really hanging on the sides, even though those I could probably add too, but this kind of works. It's looking okay. It's providing lots of shadow. It's also kind of breaking that red surface, which is something that I really wanted. The red is a bit too hard on the eye there, and combining it with that green and with the wooden texture as well there really, really paid off. At first I wanted to put glass over it, but it was just looking a bit weird, and this is just good. This is just something that I haven't really done before with these station buildings, so interesting idea. Maybe I'm going to continue with that. Lights. All right, so this is huge. I always wanted to have the station building illuminated during the night because it's the stadium building, right? It's a huge building. It's the largest footprint building in the city, and you barely see it during the night. So it was a bit of a shame that the entire roof, the entire nice blue roof, isn't blue during the night. So I took all these vanilla blue spotlights aiming up, and then I just put them into the corners of that blue roof. Everywhere on the corners of those, on the sides of those like beams that are going over the roof. It took a really long time, as you can imagine, but fortunately the building is kind of symmetrical somewhere, so I was able to just copy paste it with Move It and mirror it. And it was definitely something that paid off because right now it's going to be the landmark that you will always immediately recognize in the nighttime shots. And also if I'm going to do like a low angle shots over this area, then those blue spotlights are creating like a glow over that stadium building. So it's not just visible from the top, but also if you are looking at the stadium from the bottom, you are seeing like a blue glow over it, which is looking really, really, really good. I'm definitely going to put some screenshots on Twitter or somewhere else where you can see that. I'm not really sure if it's going to be all that visible in the cinematics, but yeah, in screenshots it's looking really, really good. Anyway, I also put some kind of lights on the stadium building and in those pits, in those technical pits that I talked about. And overall, this area is, starting to look really good. Also, talking about the flying train, or well, just talking about the flying train now, I did also those like sonic rings there and pillars for them. So obviously the pillars cannot just go straight down because sometimes they are over tracks, so they have to be like offset or something like that. But these are just the rings that are directly on the tracks, over the tracks. But later, those rings that are like off the hub inside that park, we are going to just do something completely different with them. That's going to be in like 2 episodes or something like that, where we're going to finally finish that flying train path. Now, look at all those cinematics. So this is, for example, the tree line that I was talking about that I replaced with those more tropical trees because, like I said, I just wanted to unify it throughout the entire area, and it's looking good. I really, really like it. Also, that little detail, I also showed it in the time-lapse, the numbers for these platforms. They are made from those hollow shaders. Unfortunately, they are looking mirrored from the other side, but, from the other side, I'm not really looking at it that much anyway, and the platform numbers are more important from inside the station. Also put these green roofs over the platforms. They are not like super needed below that high-speed bridge, of course, but I just really like the color, and I have them everywhere else on the platforms, on the hubs, so I really wanted to put them here as well. Now, also notice those cargo trains, those cargo train props there. I'm not really sure if I'm going to make that cargo station functional later. I could. I think I do have like a small cargo station that I can just hide inside those procedural object buildings on the side anyway. So I can easily just make it functional. But later, when we actually have some cargo to be transported from some industrial zone maybe or something like that. Also, I finished the high-speed platforms on the other side. You could have seen that. So right now I also put lights there, so you can even see it in this shot how they are kind of intentionally offset. They are not exactly at the same ends, right? Those platforms. So that was intentional. That's just creating something, some kind of asymmetry in that area, which is what I really want. These kinds of nice shots especially are looking good with that hole in the building, in the station building for the flying train platform. Look at that. There's that train arriving, just going through that station building. It's really looking nice. Anyway, guys, that is going to be all for today's project. Thank you for watching it. If you liked it, then you can do the usual to help the video, help the channel, and that is putting a thumbs up below the video, leaving a comment, sharing the video, and subscribing to the channel if you are new here. And also, if you like this a lot, you can become a channel member if you want to support the channel directly, support what I do here. Big thanks to all those channel supporters that we have currently. I really appreciate all those supports. It's been really nice seeing the channel members grow lately, so thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. All right, that is all. Take care and goodbye.